So greetings, friends and followers. This is Nurses Talking. I am Dale Barzi. And as always, if you like what you see and hear, subscribe. Leave us a comment and let us know what you think. And here on Nurses Talking, we speak to nurses anywhere in the world and at any stage in their nursing journey, from students to retirees and anywhere in between. And today, it is my great pleasure to welcome Courtney Robinson. Courtney is a nurse and a business strategist for nurse entrepreneurs, and she's based in the tropical paradise of Bali, Indonesia. She's on a mission to help 100 burnt-out nurses get time freedom and say bye to the bedside by helping them start, launch, and grow their own money-making business. So, welcome, Courtney.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you so much for doing this. I've been looking forward to meeting you.
Me too.
So, the first thing I want to know, Courtney, always is why people are nurses. Why are you a nurse?
So I went into nursing. My story is a lot different from a lot of people. I wasn't drawn to nursing, but I was led to nursing. My mom suggested the career actually, and I think that she saw something in me that I didn't see at the time. I'm a very empathic person, and so she really thought that I would do well in the career. But and honestly, I think being an empathic person or a person who has a level of empathy is really important in nursing. But at 17, I had no clue about nursing. I had no experience in the hospital. I'm a first generation college student, so like I didn't know anything about what I wanted to do actually. So once I got to college, I did a lot of research, some volunteer work, and nursing really grew on me. I fell in love with the profession, what the profession represented, and feeling like I was making a difference. And so eventually I felt like I was supposed to become a nurse.
I am of the firm opinion that nursing calls us. Anyway,
Yes.
so you said you did some volunteering and stuff like that. So by the time you actually graduated, then you had some idea of what to expect, or a good idea of what to expect.
Yes, once I got into my prerequisites, I was in college doing, the basic classes like algebra or, anatomy and physiology. I started to do more volunteer work during that time. And that's when I started saying, okay, this is what nurses do. Okay, this is what this is about. So yeah, it was during that.
Okay, okay. All right. So what kind of areas, how long have you been a nurse?
10 years.
10 years. So what kind of areas have you worked in?
Oh, I've given my expertise in many. So I started out in IMU, and shortly after that, I transitioned to ICU, and I spent majority of my career in ICU, where I worked in specialties like MICU, CVICU, neurosurgical ICU. I also did transplant, where we did pancreas, lungs, heart, kidney, and then a little after that, I went into PACU, and then I transitioned to procedural nursing and interventional radiology. And I did general body and neuro interventional radiology, procedural nursing for some time. And then I went on to do corporate nursing, where I teamed with a group of nurses, and we did case management and consulting for a health tech startup. And that company ended up selling. And after that, I decided that it was time for me to, get into pursuing my goals and my entrepreneurial goals at that point.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
a lot.
But that's the big thing about nursing, and really, that's one of the goals of this, is because I really want to show nurses that there's so much that you can do, so much. There's no limit. There's really no limit to what you can do and where you can go. So, I love it when nurses tell me they have tried this, and the other, and now they're heading towards.
I took full advantage. I wanted to try everything. I was wide-eyed when I went into nursing. I was like, oh my God, I want to do this. I want to do this. So I tried everything.
Yeah. Awesome. Absolutely awesome. But having done all of that now and having garnered all of that experience, is there anything you think you would like to see change?
Within the nursing industry, absolutely. I think well, my story is like a little different when it comes to how I navigated the nursing industry.
Mhm.
One of the challenges, the hardest things for me was just feeling like I really didn't have the power to advocate for my patients fully. And when, they told me that your job is to advocate for your patients, like I took that to heart. And
Mhm.
so as I continued to move in all of these different places, I did notice, because I also did travel nursing for some time. And I noticed that there was just a consistent of just disparities, differences in care, the profit over patient mentality in healthcare. And I just really started to notice that I went from wide-eyed and ready to save the world to seeing that healthcare was really flawed, and it was only so much that I can do within those systems. And so I would say that the thing for me would be that more nurses, if you're feeling like this, to pursue entrepreneurship and really take your skills, your nursing skills, and transfer them into the community, which is ultimately what I decided to do with those challenges that I was facing in healthcare. One day I just really, said to myself, if I can't fully advocate for my patients within these systems, then how can I do it outside? How can I create a way to do it? And so that is really what started my business, because initially I wanted to go into being able to change the way I'm able to advocate for my patients. So I would love to see more nurses doing that.
Okay. Okay. So what is your business called?
It's Davidson Robinson Employment Services. I'm sorry, Davidson Robinson. Sorry, I don't know where that came from. It's Davidson Robinson LLC. And I have a program called the Level Up Mentorship Program for Nurse Entrepreneurs. I don't know where
Uh-huh.
that came from. Sir.
Freudian.
So
Okay. Mhm.
and how I started my business initially is I wanted to, like I said, that was a challenge that I had, and I wanted to start a nonprofit or see what I can do. So I wanted to start a nonprofit, actually working with the youth in Black and Brown communities to mentor them in more like administrative areas within nursing, or even on the board in the hospitals,
Yeah.
because that was something that I didn't see enough of. But immediately I decided, what can I do now? And so I started private coaching on the side while I was nursing. Like I had worked for a startup health tech company and learned a lot. So
Mhm.
I decided to do that on my own. And then I created my first coaching program, which was called Healthy Through Healing, where I work with Black women and help them break through chronic disease through with spirituality and redefine their lives and really heal. And from there, I just decided to take it to the next step, which is when I created the Level Up Mentorship Program for Nurse Entrepreneurs, where I started to shift my focus onto the nursing community specifically, and really try to see how we can make an impact together and just be a bridge or a gap of support between our communities and healthcare. And
Mhm.
so ultimately, I do that by helping nurses start, launch, and grow businesses that are mission-based, passion, purpose-filled businesses. So
Yeah. 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 Awesome. Awesome. That's a huge vision.
yeah, it is.
It's not an unreachable one.
Yeah, yeah,
It's a big one, but
yeah.
it's not an unreachable one. So, you know.
The thing is that a lot of nurses feel this way once they get into the career, and I think that it's not spoken on often. I feel like a lot of nurses it's very difficult to be transparent, like, because we love nursing, but there's also flaws within the healthcare industry, and so it's difficult to kind of speak out on it. But a lot of nurses feel this way. I talk to nurses all the time, and even last year in
Mhm.
2022, able to help 9 nurses and the Level Up Mentorship offers. And this is the same story from all of my clients. So
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. 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 And one of the questions I typically ask nurses is, when you got into nurses, was it what you thought it would be? Very often the answer is no. Not that they are necessarily so disillusioned in the first place, but it really just wasn't what they thought. They saw themselves, I think, having more autonomy, not having to answer to business people who don't have no idea what we do anyway. And feeling caught and frustrated in that, bound up in that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I actually read an article last week on LinkedIn, and it was a study that was done, and they were trying to see how many people on the hospital boards. They took a group of hospitals, I think it was like 13 or 14 hospitals, and they tried to see what the background was of each person on the board, and there was a very small percentage of healthcare related background of people that were actually on the board, and there were no nurses in most of them.
the people who hold the purse strings, and therefore the people who make the decisions and stuff like that, really don't have any knowledge of what is required for, I'm not even going to say good healthcare, I'm going to say just adequate care.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. That's exactly why I feel like it's so important for nurses to, if you feel moved or pulled to, transfer your skills into entrepreneurship and find a more direct way to touch the community. I think that's so important because it's a way for us to advocate just outside of those systems. And I find that that's really important to be able to teach your patients in your community how to really advocate for themselves, even the basics of like even taking care of themselves, those with chronic diseases, just the basics of not pushing for pharmaceuticals, but how to really take care of yourself. Even that, we can do that.
we can do that. Yes, we can do that. Yes, we can do that. And as I keep saying, we have gone from, we speak of healthcare, but that's not really what we do. What we do is disease management, which is way too far down the road of where we should be. We should have been here doing preventive stuff, and as you said, just teaching people basic stuff about how to take care of themselves, rather than of course there's going to be disease, but so much of it didn't have to get so far down the road if we were
Absolutely.
approaching it differently.
Absolutely. I believe that too.
Yeah. So anyway, so what would you say? Well, first of all, I know you have this big vision. What advice then, since we're talking about nurses and getting into it and feeling sometimes a little inadequate, what advice would you give to someone who wants to be a nurse?
I think you should do it. I believe that even with the challenges, I believe that nursing is an amazing career. Like we said in the beginning, it's so many avenues for you to take in nursing. And at the end of the day, I believe that all of us want the same thing. We want to be able to help someone. I think I spoke on this earlier that if you're drawn to nursing, at some point you have empathy for others. And so there's probably a big part of you that wants to make a difference and to serve a purpose and help someone. And so I don't think that, if you're feeling called, you should not follow that call, and you absolutely should go into nursing. And, there's so many different avenues that you can take in nursing to tailor to who you are as a person and how you want to show up and help your community.
Yeah. We're talking a lot about one of the things that I try to address in this is this issue of burnout. Burnout. Nurses are complaining so much, and I don't know if we have more nurses nurses are more burnt out now than they used to be, or it's just that maybe the pandemic highlighted it more. Well, nurses are complaining of being burnt out. And when I ask and they tell me things like what the reasons are, they tell me things, they talk about not enough staff, they talk about the things we just talked about, people making decisions for us who don't have any idea what we do. We talk about not being properly compensated and stuff like that. But very often we don't talk about our part in this burnout situation because we do have a part, I think. I think that part of it is the fact that we, as nurses, individually and as a group, don't really advocate for ourselves adequately. We even on an individual level, even on a unit level, when you have a day off and someone calls you because they're short staffed and you say, no, I can't. And then they try to guilt you into coming and you end up going. Those kinds of things contribute. And then as a group, we don't. So how do you think that we can go about addressing this burnout issue? Because we can't have people keep coming in and going and coming in and going. It's just not going to work. How are we going to do it?
I can break that answer up in two different ways. First off, to start out about not taking up for yourself within the nursing industry. If anyone is watching this in my audience on my email list, I just sent out an email on our last newsletter about this, but boundaries are so important. And in any health, in any profession,
Yes.
but in particular in nursing, because we are trained to put the needs of others on a regular basis before our own. And so it's important to step outside of that, to have like solid boundaries in place for your own mental health and your own well-being. So for me, when I was working at the hospital and at the bedside, I do not answer the phone when it's my off day. There is no room to give me because I will not answer. If it's that important, we can address it when I return from my shift. And in terms of burnout itself, I have a very different perspective when it comes to burnout. I feel like the way the industry is with nursing and the way healthcare is, burnout is bound to happen with everyone. I absolutely went through burnout. And in my own journey, I went through burnout. I end up depressed. I had to start therapy. And, that's what allowed me to set these boundaries in place. But one thing I would challenge anyone who's dealing with burnout is to really just sit back and figure out, what is it that's causing the burnout in particular? Is it that you don't have boundaries? Or is it that this is no longer serving you in the avenue in which you are serving in nursing, so that you can shift on, what is it that drives me? What is it that I would like to focus more on? If it's, I know a lot of us are pushed to, like when I was in school, it was like the thing to be an ICU nurse. Well, in ICU, you see a lot of death. You see a lot of, it takes a big emotional toll. This may be something that may not be best for you. You may do better as a nurse, like a plastic surgery nurse, or like a nurse that in a clinic. And so I think when it comes to, when you feel yourself getting burnt out, that's a time for you to step back and step in and say, what is most fulfilling for me, and how can I apply it to my nursing career?
Yeah. I get that. And I've started saying but I was going to say what I started saying. Well, I've started saying to people, because typically you spoke about boundaries, right? And that's a huge thing for me as well, because you know what? It's something we have to learn. In fact, it's something we have to learn because it's still a female-dominated career profession. And then our education, our nursing education compounds it and tells you really have to put everyone else first, right? Yeah. So for us to have boundaries is something that we have to physically, intentionally learn. I started saying to people, I used to say, well, you have to learn to say no. I've turned that around to say you have to learn to say yes. But the first yes that you say is to you. And if you say yes to you, it means then that you're saying no to something else, right? In order to say no to that, when you said yes to you, when you say, yes, I need this day off. Yes, I need to do such and such for myself. Yes, I need to do this. Then I can't possibly do whatever it is. So that no is much easier to say because you've already committed to yourself.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to put it, because I feel like that's a problem that many nurses have. We are really like indoctrinated in a way of like, put everyone first. So like a lot of I've even myself felt guilt, you know,
Yeah.
in my days of boundaries of feeling guilt that the unit is short staffed.
Mm-hmm.
And having the way I flip that guilt is just to be like, you know, I can't take care of anyone, I can't pour into anyone, I can't be the best that I can be until I pour in myself first. So if that
Exactly.
means that I'm only gonna work what I'm required to work and take my off days and fill my own cup during this time, then that's what it takes for me to be the best nurse. Not to run myself raggedy or like, you know, until I'm burnt out, but to fill me up first. That's how I
To
show
fill
up
you
as
up
the best.
first. Yeah. And one of the things that not for nothing, there is a shortage in nursing. It's cyclic, it's cyclical, it comes and it goes, the shortage in nursing. But also we have to recognize that a lot of the shortage is a business decision. It's a business decision. And as long as we keep coming in on our time and filling that gap, then there is no reason, there is no need to change anything because we're always going to come and do it. you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
So
I probably would
I
say it a little more harsh, and the way that I would say it is, that's not your problem. I mean, when we become, when we become nurses, you want to do the best that you can, and we can't solve everything in this system that's huge, that's predated well before us, and that will be here well after us. You cannot
yeah,
solve every
yeah,
single problem. That is not your problem. Your problem is how can you show up.
yeah. And that's right. The problem is how can you still work and work effectively, and satisfy, do the job you set out to do, satisfy
Mhm.
yourself, satisfy your pay. I read an article. I think it was today. It was either today or yesterday. Time's going so quickly. Days are running into one. Um, about a nurse who lost her license, and was convicted. Um, and what happened was she suctioned a trach patient, and I don't know what happened in the interim, but forgot to put back on the mask, the trach collar. Um, and so another nurse went in, and by that time the patient had died and whatever. Um, but and on the one hand, I don't really, this was a nurse of some experience. So I don't believe that it was necessarily carelessness on her part. It may look that way to people who are looking at it from and have never done that. But so often things happen that you would think, how could you forget to put back the trach collar? But what else happened? The story didn't tell me what else happened to distract her from that. That she thought was more emergent than that happened, because this is not an easy thing to forget to put on a trach collar. You don't just walk away and forget to put on a trach collar. So, but these are
Yeah,
things that will happen if we continue to
yeah,
do what we do, the way we
yeah.
do it.
Because we're dealing with a lot of short staff. When it's been 2 years since I've worked, actually it's been over 2 years because I worked in corporate nursing. So it's been almost 5 years since I worked at the bedside. And even 5 years ago, when I was at the bedside, they were slowly and surely taking away nurses, the resources that we had. I
Mm-hmm.
went from when I started my nursing career, we would have like techs and CNAs to assist us even in ICU, to buddy systems and no
Yeah.
CNA for the entire unit.
Yeah.
So I think that that's one thing that we have to remember as nurses too. And I really hate that happened to this nurse. But a lot of times those systems also, like even for the board of nursing, it's not really for our protection. And so, a lot of times I've seen it happen before where you'll make a small mistake because all of these things are in place to just
Mm-hmm.
tie you up and tie your time and attention up. And then they'll blame you, and then go back in all your charting for the past 12 years to make you look
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
incompetent as a nurse. And
Yeah.
that's a big that's for nurses, and that's, and that's really unfortunate, but it's an example of how healthcare is
Yeah,
not the way
yeah,
it is.
yeah. And it's what I say is that we now are in the position, just as you take a defensive driving class, we really have to do defensive nursing.
Mhm.
And that's sad.
That's a good
Oh, I,
idea of some sort of class to
yes,
put together, because that's true. That's
yeah,
true.
it's absolutely true. We really have to, educate and practice defensive nursing,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah, 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 absolutely.
So, so before we go, Courtney, is there any little gem you'd like to leave us with, especially for those entrepreneurs and new nurses?
Um, if I have any advice, it's the same for anyone who wants to go into nursing. I have the same for entrepreneurs. If you feel the urge or the call, do it. I think I actually put up a post on my platform about this, and I said no one feels 100% ready, but do it anyway and do it scared. So that's my advice. That's the gem I'm leaving you with. Do it. Do whatever it takes to get it done. Even when I was in nursing school, I had mentorship. I had a mentor to help me get through. And the same when it comes to entrepreneurship, get a mentor, beef up on your skills to do whatever it takes to get it done, but do it.
We'll do it. All right.
Yeah,
Thank you so very much, Courtney. This was a great conversation. I loved it. Thank you.
I did too. I enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.